There's long-standing themes for me, dealing with central Queensland. One is Harriet Jane Neville-Rolfe, a English woman, came out here in the 1880s for a couple of years and spent time with her brothers at Alpha Station and areas around Alpha. It was around the same time the town of Alpha was established, about 1884, 85. I'm born in that town and my parents still live there, and so a lot of my work deals with that experience and conditioning, and so I constantly research, investigate. All roads lead to Alpha, and so it's a central point for me. So that's one theme, the work of Harriet Jane Neville-Rolfe, which is in Queensland Art Gallery. There's about 84 watercolours that her son donated in the 1950s. Quite, just a wonderful collection of work. They're basically the snapshots of the time. Camera was invented, but not everyone had didn't have the personal camera she do today. So she did watercolours. She'd been trained in Italy and maybe at the Slade School in London, which was quite unusual for a woman at that time. And I'm very interested in, and have always been, in the feminist movement and in basically dealing with the patriarchy. I see many inequalities in our social and religious setups, and a lot of my work is to do with balancing. Another one, the themes that I'm looking at, which is a troubled story, is the massacre, the so-called, at Cullen Laringo, outside of Emerald. And Mum's sister, my aunt, married into that family, the Willses that were killed there. And it's a very interesting story. The balancing act that's going on there is this sort of trying to deal with the fact that this was Europeans in this occasion that were killed, and I'm not wanting to beat some drum about that. It's just that it's a major story that happened close to where I grew up, and that my family married into that family. And I've got cousins who are Willses, and Horatio Wills came up from Victoria, established a property there, but just days after arriving, he and some of the families that came with him, 19 people in all, were killed. His son, Tommy Wills, never really recovered from that. He was with him, but on that day, away from the camp. And he had been a very successful sportsman and was responsible for a lot of the cricket initiatives in Australia. And I think he was central to bringing the first English team out here to play cricket. And he went back to Victoria and more or less started Australian rules. He was very central to setting up the Australian rules. So these are intriguing stories, and I'm dealing with paintings that, or artworks, or ways of presenting this story, conscious of the fact that on this occasion it's Aboriginal people killing Europeans. And whilst it was the largest massacre of Europeans in Australia's history at one point, it's nothing, of course, compared to hundreds at a time of Aboriginal people that were killed by Europeans. But I come from the point of view that we have to have a dialogue, we have to be able to talk about all sorts of things that happened if we're going to have any real reconciliation. And not dwell on the past. I don't recommend that. But that you acknowledge it and move on is the basic kind of standpoint that I have. That's grown out of my own experience, really, of being gay, growing up in this part of the world, which has been identified, I believe, as the most homophobic in Australia. And so that's been something central to my own journey and experience of dealing with these prejudices and discriminations. So I recognise and I have empathy for other people, Aboriginal people, it's not... And also understanding that if you're really going to overcome something, you just acknowledge it and move on. You don't let the past basically block your future. But I have a great interest in history, obviously, and the history of this area. And I think one of the things about central Queensland, also there's been a lot of great research done and publications, etc. There's still so much more that could be said and done to actually allow people to understand the richness of the background here. There tends to be, oh, we won't go there, we don't want to know because we might find something really ugly. And of course there is a lot of ugliness in the way that it was developed here, but there's a great lot of beauty, and I think there's much to celebrate. So that's been central to my coming back here and working here, as I have been since about 2006. So I was with the art gallery, and then that kind of segued into coming here. So there was a point of time when I was neither at the art gallery nor at the university, but it's been very rewarding for me personally, and I'd like to think that I've opening up some kind of dialogue, making some kind of contribution to central Queensland cultural life, because I think there's so much here. It's such a rich repository of ideas and histories, as well as talents, people. And I know how difficult it was for me to be the person that I've become, or to actually express my own self in a creative way. And I'm conscious of how there would be other people here who really just need to have an example. And I'm the eldest of 10 children, so I was always told I had to be a good example. I don't think I turned out to be quite the example that my parents and teachers had in mind, because I do see that we live in a very revolutionary age, and the role of an artist is to be a revolutionary, to actually speak the unspeakable, to say what others dare not speak about, to actually deal with the difficult subjects. That's how I see the role of the artist. There's many different interpretations of what an artist is or can be, but I think in this point in history particularly, there's so little time left to deal with the big issues and the big stories, because we're in the midst of a paradigm flip, a huge social change. It's going to affect everyone in ways that I don't think many people are kind of really conscious of or aware. They haven't quite woken up yet, but it's happening all around us. And I'm doing the research that I can to be prepared for these enormous changes. And I've seen so many already in my own life.